All right, everybody, last video for the week. Hopefully this goes as quickly and smoothly as the last ones have. What we're going to be doing today is setting up percent proportions. We're just making proportions, but we're using percents, which is nice because 1/2 of the proportion is really easy. It's just a percent. The thing we have to be careful of is how we set up the other side. So the questions, you'll see them down here on the together section, are things like 18 is what percent of 60, or 150% of what number is 24, or something like what number is 24% of 80. And again, the only difficult part about this is setting it up correctly, but we have a nice formula that should make this pretty easy for you. I'll be honest, I really don't like teaching it to you this way, but as much material as we have to cover this year, we just don't have time for me to do it any other way. So the formula that we're looking for on the left-hand side is always our percent. So we're always going to have a percent over 100. That is always going to go on the left. So if the problem gives us a percent, like 57%, we would write 57 per 100. 57 on top over 100. So when I write percent here, what I mean is any number in front of a percent sign is going to go on top. This 100 never changes. It is always 100. Percent always goes over 100. This will never be a different number. On the right-hand side of the equal sign, the right-hand side of our proportion, we use keywords to figure out what goes there. And to help us figure out what goes on top, we look for the word is. And to help us figure out what goes on the bottom is the word of. And you may have heard teachers say this in the past, percent over 100 equals is over of. Any number associated with the word is usually will go on top. That's the part of the whole, and that's why it's on top with the part of the percent. And the number associated with the word of is going to go on the bottom because it's usually the total number. So let's go through the steps of kind of how to set up this problem, how to solve it, and then I'll do some examples for you. So our example says 18 is what percent of 60? And the first step is to circle the key words. So in this first box, I want you to write circle the key words. And if you need to, what we're looking for is the word is and the word of. Those are kind of our key words that we want. So we're looking for the words is and of, and we're going to circle them and the number. You can cross out this first box here. And in the second one, and we're looking for the number it is attached to. Sorry about those couple of typos, but we're going to circle the key words is and of, and the number that it's attached to. Every once in a while, and the reason I scribbled this out is sometimes we're looking for one of those numbers. And so instead of a number, it's going to have the word what. But I really don't want you to get confused too much with that word there. So circle the key number, or the key words is and of, and the number it is attached to. And we want those numbers so that we can plug them into this formula up here. So if I look at my example, 18 is, there's one of my key words, and it's attached to the 18. So 18 and is go together. What percent? Now, I already know where my x goes because it's asking what percent. And the only number I can ever put over the 100 is a number that has a percent after it. And this problem doesn't have that because we're looking for the percent. So I know that's where my x is going to go, x over 100. But I still want to look for my other key word, of, which is right here at the end, and it's associated with the number 60. So I'm going to circle those. 18 is what percent of 60? Now I go down to step 2. Put those key numbers in the proportion. We're going to put those key numbers in our proportion. We want to be careful, though, that we do not include the percent sign. A lot of you are going to do that. Up here where it says percent, you're going to write 57%. You can't have the percent sign up there or it's going to make your math incorrect. 57% is already written as 57 per 100. So if you write 57 with the percent sign on top, you're actually writing 57%, and that's going to do some funny things with your math. So we want to put the key numbers in the proportion using our formula up here. Is 18, so that's going to go where my is of the formula is, up here on top. And the of is 60, so I'm going to plug that in right here on the bottom for of. So my formula, I don't know the percent, so that's my x over 100, equals is, which is 18, over of, which is 60. So what percent and is 18 of 60? Okay, now step 3 says to find the cross multiplication. So find the cross multiplication where we can. And this is just like solving proportions that we did before. If I look at my proportion, I can't cross multiply x and 60. That doesn't help me solve the problem, but I can cross multiply 118. So I'm going to cross multiply those numbers. And then if you remember what to do next for step 4 is that we divide by whatever's left over. So if I multiply 118 and I divide by whatever's left, which is this 60 right here. So I'm going to do 100 times 18, and then I'm going to divide that by 60. So let's go ahead and put that in the calculator. 100 times 18, enter. That gives me 1,800. Now I want to divide by the leftover number. That was my 60 divided by 60, and I get the answer of 30. So underneath this, I'm going to write 30. Now step 5 sometimes is important, other times we don't need to use it. So read it carefully. Number 5, if you were looking for the percent, if you're looking for the percent, we need to add the percent sign. So in this question, it asked, what is the percent? What percent? So I'm actually looking for a percent, which means 30 is a percent, so I want to make sure that I write the percent sign after. Our answer is not always going to be a percent. That just means that 30 would go right here because it's 30%. All right? So hopefully a few examples will help clear this up a little bit more, make some sense, but we're looking for percent over 100 equals is over of. Those are our key things we're looking for. So in number 1 down here, I'm going to circle the keywords and the numbers attached to it. 18 is, there's one of my keywords. What percent of 60? There's my other keyword. Now this looks familiar. It looks like the problem that we just did. And it's asking what percent. So x over 100 equals 18 over 60. I cross multiply where I can, my 100 and my 18, and I divide by 60. So 100 times 18 divided by 60, and we've already worked this one out, so my answer is 30. But I do need to use step 5 because 30 was a percent. That's what I was looking for. So my answer is 30%. Okay. Number 2, this one will be a new one. 150%. I love seeing that in a problem because now I'm halfway done. I know that 150 goes on top of my percent. 150%. 150%. So that's my left-hand side. Of what? There's my key word of, but it doesn't have a number with it. I know 150% is in front of the of, but a percent always has to go on the left. So my of isn't associated with a number, but my is, it says is 24. My is associated with a number. So is goes on top, so that number 24 goes on top. And of what, we don't know, so that's going to be our x. So 150% of what number, of this number, is 24, goes on top, is over of. Now we cross multiply where we can. I can't cross multiply this way, but I can 100 times 24. And then I'm going to divide by whatever's left over, my 150. So I'm going to do in my calculator 100 times 24, and then I'm going to divide that by 150. So if I do 100 times 24, and I hit enter, I get 2,400, and I'm going to divide that by 150, and my answer becomes 16. So x is actually equal to 16. Now, I'm not looking for percent, so I'm not going to write 16%. I already have my percent. It's 150. So my answer is just 16. And that makes sense because 150 is bigger than 100, and 24 had better be bigger than my answer, and it is. It's bigger than 16. So I feel like that's probably a good answer. All right, now number 3. I'm looking for my key words is and of, and I'm also looking for a percent. So what number is 24%? Again, we want to be careful. Is and 24% are next to each other, but 24% always has to go on the left. So I know, and I'm going to get outside the box here a little bit, 24 over 100, because that's my percent, 24%. Now the is actually associated with this part, what number? So what number is 24% of 80? And my 80 is associated with the word of. So on my right-hand side, is over of. I don't know what my is, so that's my x. My of is 80, so that goes on the bottom. Now remember, this makes sense when they're written this way, but in story problems, the top number, just like in our percent, the top number is the part, and the bottom number is the whole amount. So sometimes if it's a story problem, it won't be as simple as is and of. You'll have to figure out which of the numbers is the whole amount, and that goes on the bottom with the 100, and which of the numbers is the part, or are you looking for the part, and that would go on the top. Okay, so let's cross multiply and divide. We cross multiply 24 times 80, and then we divide by what's left, 100. So 24 times 80 divided by 100, and let's see what we get. 24 times 80, I hit enter, I get 1,920, and then I'm going to divide that by 100, and I get 19.2. So x is equal to 19.2, which makes sense. 24 over 100, that's a little less than 1/4, isn't it? 25 over 100 is a fourth. And if I look on this side, x over 80, we want to also be the same as 1/4, which should be pretty close to 20, because 20 is a fourth of 80, and I got 19.2. So I feel pretty comfortable with those answers. Now I need you to pause the video, try these on your own. They're pretty similar to the ones on the left, so use your examples here to help you out. Be careful of that is and of, and don't you dare put anything over 100 unless it has a percent sign in front of it. That is the only number that can go over 100, is the number with the percent sign. So good luck. After you've finished these problems, bring one up to me, and we'll send you on your way.